The Swakopmund meeting was part of a countrywide program that we have launched last year called the Community Voices, Amplifying Community Voices, and we have been to the far north, especially in Kavango East and West, in Oshikoto, and also last year we had engagements in the south, in the coastal towns of Ludretz, Aos, Betania, Oranjemund, and concluded in Ketman. So this year, we're concluding the first phase of that initiative. So we were at Utusep to meet with the leadership of the Topnar community on Monday. On Tuesday, we had a similar meeting in Wilkes Bay with church and community leaders, civil society leaders. And yesterday we had a meeting in Swakopmund with the same audience. So it's really to brief the communities on the work that the Council of Churches is doing at the national level, especially the Social Economic Justice Unit, and then also to get community inputs, especially from the leadership on discussions around the extractive industry and how we can increase revenues from the extractive industries to address the socio-economic challenges that we have, but also to address the challenges of environmental destruction, of tax avoidance that we have picked up in the sector, but also issues around the health and wellness and safety of the workers in the communities around those industries, and how this extractive industry can also engage more meaningfully with the communities. We've also touched on the new resources of oil, gas, and green hydrogen, and how communities can engage into these sectors, providing inputs, but also see how they can benefit from the development and expansion of this sector. So those were really some of the issues that we discussed.
Now, who was invited to the meeting, and why is it so important to include church leaders, civil society members, and community representatives in the talks like this?
Yes, with this particular outreach program, we really are avoiding having like mass community meetings, and for strategic reasons focusing on the leadership, community leadership, church leaders, not only the pastors and the priests, deacons and so on, but also the elders, the church leaders in the youth movement, in the women's movement, in the men's movement, and so on. Broadly, in terms of civil society, we are looking at trade unions, for example, organizations organized around housing, the Sectoral Federation, other community groups, faith-based organizations, and so on. So we're focusing on the leadership because we really wanted to understand what are some of the local challenges that the communities are facing. So the discussion was really starting off with issues that community leaders were identifying as positive developments that really, whether from government, private sector, or any other, can be seen as positive developments. And then we're also looking at challenges and what community leaders are doing to address those challenges, and what role we that are based in the capital and that are close to government offices and parliament and other structures can really connect local communities to those structures and to national leadership. So it was important for us to develop also local connections, and we are hoping that resources allowing, we can also build capacities of the local leadership to be playing a more engaging role with the locally elected leadership, whether at the regional or local council level, through the development committees and other structures that has been put up there for government, civil society, community engagement.
Now, what role can churches and community leaders play in ensuring that resources like mining, oil and gas, and also green hydrogen benefit local communities more directly?
Yes, one that we have identified, and we as you would remember, had a convening of the alternative mining in Daba in January 2024, where more than 100 participants from all over the country, and especially in areas that are affected by mining and the extractive industry in general, gathered to discuss opportunities and challenges within that sector. So we have identified that we can play a meaningful role in terms of policy advocacy. Some of our policies are weak. There are loopholes in those policies. The policy review in the mining sector has been going on for close to 10 years. We would want that to come to conclusion for the Minerals Act and other pieces of legislation to be strengthened, but then also existing legislation that we think is good for it to be effectively implemented, like provisions around environment, protection of the environment, around environmental impact assessment. Those policies are good on paper, but enforcement is a challenge. The foreign company sometimes comes in and starts with the operations without getting the necessary licenses, as was found, for example, by the Parliamentary Standing Committee with Recon Africa in the two Kavango regions, or the Chinese company that was caught under this disguise of exploration, exporting huge raw materials containing lithium and other resources around the Uts area. So sometimes we have legislation, but it's not effectively implemented. We've also realized that there are loopholes, leakages in the tax system, and a lot of these foreign companies are finding ways to cook their books, to avoid tax and so on. So we have partnered with the Tax Justice Network Africa, based in Nairobi, to see how they can help our local authorities dealing with tax to close those loopholes. We also want to do more work in terms of protecting the environment and the health and wellness of the workers and the communities in these extractive industries, as well as advocating for more meaningful engagement and relationship between these companies and the mining sector or the extractive sector. And we also are trying to see how we can, the lessons we have drawn from other natural resources that we had, like diamond, copper, and others, how we can use those lessons to make inputs as government is now preparing these agreements and policy framework around the oil and gas and green hydrogen sector. How do we make sure that we are not again at the losing end, where we have so much resources, but majority of the people remain in poverty?
Yeah. And just finally, what message would you like to share with Namibians about the role of churches and communities in addressing poverty and inequality?
What we have really emphasized at these meetings is that if communities are not organized, their strength is limited. We've encouraged them to organize and not to operate in isolation. For example, we are working on terms of reference to strengthen local ecumenical cooperation through pastors forums, ecumenical forums, and so on. There are some places, some towns where this works effectively, and these forums make progress, but in others there is not a unified platform for churches and civil society to work on these issues at the local level. For example, there are these monthly meetings of the local authorities, and there is local leadership and community leadership is allowed to go and observe those meetings, but also in between those meetings to engage local authorities on issues of the housing crisis or on issues of cost of the local services or just on the environment and cleanliness of towns and so on, but also about how local authorities, regional authorities can support local community development and the initiatives that is there in communities. So we are encouraging broader civil society and churches to organize, to establish networks, coalitions, to discuss issues. Say this month maybe a campaign on the housing crisis, maybe the next month a campaign on health, education, and every month could have a theme, and we could engage the necessary authorities to collect the issues from the communities and then engage the local authorities and so on. So we are hoping to come back with capacity strengthening initiatives. For example, next month it was announced that the NGO week, NGO Civil Society Week that normally takes place in Windhoek the past 3-4 years is now going to move to Erongo, this region. That would be the last week in February. So we would make use of those opportunities to return to the region and to see how we can build capacity and bring together the different actors in the region, collaborating with the governor and other elected officials to really make a difference. And this is what we would like to replicate in all the regions. So we are very satisfied with the response from local communities. The meetings were well attended. There were some that were missing, but with those that came, we really made progress, and we are looking forward to more community activism and leadership engagement from civil society with the elected leadership at national, regional, and local government levels.